All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're basically tearing up the old B2B lead generation playbook and building a brand new one from the ground up, one that's actually built for 2025 and beyond.
So let me ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. Are the lead gen tactics you're using today pretty much the same ones you were using 5 years ago? Because if the answer is yes, you might be playing a game that, well, has already ended.
You see, the whole point of this explainer is actually pretty simple. The B2B buyer has completely changed how they research, how they engage, and ultimately how they make decisions. And that means our strategies, they have to change right along with them.
But, before we can jump into all the solutions, we first have to really get our heads around the problem. So let's kick things off by digging into who this new B2B buyer really is.
And this slide, wow, this number really shows you the sheer scale of the shift we're talking about. A Gartner study found that a whopping 80% of all sales interactions are now happening in digital channels. Think about that. That means your buyers are doing their homework, they're forming opinions, and they're making decisions all before you even get a chance to talk to them. So you've got to find a way to meet them where they are, and you have to do it in a way that's actually helpful, not just noisy.
Okay, so how do you engage this new digital-first buyer? Well, it takes a completely different game plan. Let's break down the new rules of engagement.
This slide really lays it all out, right? The old playbook versus the new one. The old way was all about volume, casting a super wide net and just hoping for the best. But the new playbook, it's all about precision. It's about using smart data to find the right accounts and then personalizing everything you do to meet their specific needs.
And this is where that shift from being reactive to proactive really kicks in. See, AI-powered lead intelligence doesn't just find you leads, it actually helps predict who's ready to buy before they've even filled out a form. It's looking at all these little digital breadcrumbs, like website visits or content downloads, to flag accounts that are showing real purchase intent. That lets you jump in at the absolute perfect moment.
And when you do engage, this right here is the new standard. Seriously, the days of generic, one-size-fits-all messaging are completely over. Today, you have to treat every single target account like it's a market of one.
This brings us to maybe the most important asset of all, trust. I mean, think about it. In a world of data breaches and endless spam, buyers are more skeptical than ever. The new playbook earns trust by being upfront, by providing real value, and by focusing on helping, not just selling. Trust has literally become the new currency.
Okay, so we've covered the big picture, the high-level strategy. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Where are the top B2B marketers actually placing their bets to win in 2025?
Now, at first glance, this chart seems pretty straightforward, right? Email marketing is king, used by 88% of B2B marketers. But popularity doesn't tell the whole story, not even close. The really interesting part is what happens when we start looking at efficiency.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. While those paid campaigns are super popular, they come with an average cost per lead, that's CPL, of over $300. Now compare that to content marketing, which can deliver leads for under $100. Think about it. A company that creates one amazing, high-value industry report can generate qualified leads for years to come. A paid ad, it stops working the second you stop paying. Now, this doesn't mean paid ads are bad, but it really highlights that building a strong content engine is one of the most cost-effective long-term plays you can make, period.
Speaking of specific channels, we absolutely have to do a deep dive on the undisputed champion of B2B social media, LinkedIn. It's where your buyers are, no question. But it's also famously expensive. And this is the question on everybody's mind, isn't it? With CPCs, that's cost per click, often going through the roof, is the ROI really there? Or are you just burning cash to get in front of a targeted audience? So here's a fantastic tip I saw from a user in the B2B marketing community over on Reddit. Their advice? Instead of just promoting your official company page, try promoting content from your key executives. These thought leader ads, as they're called, just feel more authentic. They drive way more engagement, and they often outperform the standard corporate ads. It's all about promoting people, not just logos.
And when you do decide to run ads, you face this really critical choice. You've got lead gen forms, which are native to LinkedIn, that make it super easy for people to sign up, so you're going to get a higher volume of leads. But sending them to your own website, while it adds a little friction, it also filters for people with much higher intent. So here's the takeaway. Lead gen forms are awesome for top-of-funnel content, to gather data quickly. But for those bottom-of-funnel offers, the higher quality leads you'll get from your website are almost always worth that higher initial cost.
All right, let's tie this all together, because honestly, none of these tactics matter if you can't measure their actual impact on the bottom line. It's time to move beyond those vanity metrics and start talking about revenue.
This timeline really shows how we got here and how fast things have changed. In just 5 years, we've gone from using basic email templates to having AI assistants that can literally draft our outreach and predict which deals are going to close. This tech stack, this is what makes the whole new playbook possible.
So, why is all that automation so critical? Just look at this number. 10 times. You are 10 times more likely to convert a lead if you respond within the first 5 minutes. Let that sink in. Speed isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's a massive competitive advantage. And honestly, automation is the only way to achieve that kind of speed consistently.
So, how do you actually prove your efforts are working? You follow this path. Yeah, it starts with tracking your cost per lead, but it very quickly moves to the stuff that really matters. How many of those leads turned into real opportunities? How much pipeline value did you actually create? And ultimately, what was your final customer acquisition cost, your CAC, and what was the return on your investment? This is the framework that gets you a seat at the revenue table.
So, what it all boils down to is this. Success in 2025 is about mastering this delicate balance between science and art. You absolutely need the data and the AI, but you also need empathy and a real human connection. You need scalable processes for sure, but you also need deep personalization. One side without the other, it just doesn't work anymore.
And that leaves us with the final and maybe the most critical question for you to think about. We know automation scales, but we also know that humans connect. So where will you draw the line? Because that's the most important strategic decision you're going to make.